let's take a look at the causes for such problems. What causes all this? And I will focus on the process of language learning, not on life issues. So often there is bad or no preparation. Bad here means not morally, but simply not done in a proper way or no way at all. So the question is, have you ever prepared for your language learning? Or did you just say, I want to learn German, and I just start with something that comes my way, right? So what do I mean by preparation? So someone is thinking about this image. So you see this image, right? It's licking an ice pole. So I hope you never had that experience yourself. I think I did this once when I was a kid. It's very representative for this situation. So if you have no goal, let me get back to that. If you have no goal, that means a goal is not, I want to learn German, or I want to be fluent in German. A goal is also not, I want to speak to my grandmother in German. That's too unspecific. You need a specific goal. And a specific goal, for example, could be, I want to have a 10-minute conversation with my grandmother, of course in German, about soccer by the 15th of October 2023. That would be a very specific goal. And there is ways to actually work through the process of goal setting. We have a course for this even. I'll get to that also in the end. And you need a plan, or actually you don't need a plan, but it's very helpful because a plan tells you, am I on track, or am I deriving from my goal? That's fine. You can adjust your goal as you go, but a plan is really, really helpful in roughly knowing where you are. If you are in a city and you don't know where you are, it's very difficult to find the goal, or find your home unless you're familiar with the city. Due diligence is a business term, but it simply means, have you done your homework and checked the material or the institution or the online course out? Like, how do you know it's good for your needs? And you can do this all the time. So once you are in a course, you can always evaluate, is this the right course for me? Or do I get my money's worth? And if not, why do I think it's this way? And so on and so on. So there is a couple of things you need to do, because you don't know by default what is a good course. Sometimes you feel it, but after a time it might turn out that maybe you need to change your course or your method. Not everyone does that. It's very difficult to find and judge good material. There's plenty of bad methods out there, unfortunately. I've been doing this for many, many years, and my deepest interest was finding methods that help students to learn better. Unfortunately, let's say 90% to be nice of the methods are just rubbish. And if you're lucky, just outdated. So one of the most outdated and most horrible methods is the German-only approach. It's called the monolingual approach. And the misunderstanding is that if I only speak and hear German in the classroom, I will learn faster. Nothing could be further from the truth. It's the worst approach ever. And it has no benefits for the student, at least not before you reach B2 level. There, it doesn't harm that much. But it has many benefits for the school, because they can put any student, no matter where they come from, what language they originally speak, into one classroom, and they all feel equally stupid. So that's a benefit. And the teachers don't have to speak any other language than German, so that's economically, it's very beneficial, because as a school, I'm more flexible to hire people, as long as they're willing to stand in the classroom and work with this horrible method. Really horrible method. That's not only my opinion and experience, it's also a scientific proven fact. If you need sources, let me know. Classroom teaching is a method that is so outdated. We are not in the 20th century anymore. We have Zoom, we have other platforms through which we can work. Classrooms are time intensive, they are inflexible. They also put you together with 20, 30 other people. If you're lucky, less. But that also means that you might run behind the class if the speed of the teacher is too fast, or you might just be bored because you have to wait for your fellow students that are not as fast with learning German. Many, many other sides of a classroom. It causes inhibition in shyer, more introvert learners, because it's really something to ask a question in front of 10 to 30 other people. It's something you can learn, but still, why? Why expose yourself to that? Some methods still work with vocabulary or grammar lists and tables. These lists have a function in the sense of giving you an overview what is out there. That's fine. But there's no need to learn anything of that by heart, because learning a list by heart will make you good at reciting lists. Yeah? The same with tables. You know, it's a satisfying thing to do, but it's not really beneficial for your German learning. A bad structure or non-existing structure. Many people that study on their own, they have to figure out their own structure, and it might be less than ideal if you're not a professional learner or specifically language learner. So textbooks often provide a very basic structure, but they are usually created for group classes, and at least in Germany, most textbooks are German only, which brings us again to the bad method above. And textbooks are also very linear. Yeah, they don't provide any feedback. That's the other problem with textbooks. And that structure would be having a class, whether online or offline, at a fixed time and place, because you just might not feel well at that time. You might just also learn better in the evenings or in the afternoons, or your life simply requires that you are available at a certain specific time. So if I have a fixed time and a fixed place, I have to organize my life around the German classes instead of the other way around, which is more likely to bring you to the end of your goal. Yeah, of course, if you're a young person and a student, you're used to this kind of stuff because you've been going to school where they told you where to be at what time. But for adults, this is an approach that is simply not recommended anymore. And going to a place in Berlin takes at least half an hour one way. So it's an hour wasted in traffic, which you might listen to some German, but that's not really making up for the wasted time. And there's plenty of bad support or no support, so you always have questions. This is the one thing students always come up with. So I have a question. So in a classroom, you will not have enough space to ask your questions. And if you're lucky, the teacher at least speaks English and allows you to ask it in English. But if you have to ask a question in German and you are A1 or A2, come on, that's just ridiculous. So you need a place to ask questions, and ideally you get instant feedback to your performance. So if you do group exercises or partner exercises with a partner in class or online or offline, the partner doesn't speak German either, so they cannot really correct you properly. And proper feedback is mainly given by a teacher, or in our case by a computer program, which does an excellent job if designed well. Now, the one thing that sometimes is a bit out of our control is bad timing. So sometimes you start something and then something happens. Yeah, you become pregnant or you become a father. Yeah, it's also possibly a problem for men. You have a new job that's very demanding. They require over hours. There's simply not enough space and time for learning German, or you break a leg or you feel sick, get COVID, whatever. All these things are out of your influence, I would say, and very often people then kind of feel guilty that they cannot put in enough time to study German. Yeah, but I'll let you know what you can do about this. But here's one of the most important causes of problems, and that is a bad mindset. And again, all this is not morally problematic. It's just something that has an effect on your learning and on your persistence. So a bad mindset is caused by expectations, and mainly expectations that are not in touch with reality. So if you think after doing B1 I can have a fluent conversation with my friends and my family, that's a bad expectation, because it's absolutely not happening. Yeah? And if you have the expectation that you should be at a certain point at a certain time, and reality tells you again and again it's not, you might start blaming yourself, and then the vicious cycle starts again, which costs you energy and you pay with loss of motivation. And often a bad expectation, or like a bad mindset, is caused by misinformation. And by misinformation, I also mean your education in the past. So you learned a language in school, right? You have a certain experience. Maybe you even were good at it. But learning languages at school has a different purpose. It's an academic process. You might be lucky and have gone to a more flexible school, one that actually cares about you creating a relationship with the language. But the techniques you learned there might not be suitable for adult language learning. And whatever you hear there's a lot of misinformation on the internet. Some people promise you can be fluent in 3 months. That might be true for 1% of the population if they put in a lot of work, but for the rest of us, that's simply not correct. Now, what can you do against these or to cure these? So what's a cure for bad preparation? And again, these are really a rough outline. There is a lot more to all of this, but let's focus on a couple of core issues and solutions. So ideally, you have a simple system. A system helps you to be structured, to know what to do next, and to not worry about where to find the next step or what material to use now. It needs to be simple enough for you to feel familiar with it after a short time. And it needs to be something that is focused on your needs and not on the needs of the school. As I said, with the German-only approach, it's only focused on the benefits for the school, but not on the students' benefits at all. And I'm not blaming schools for doing that, because that's what they have to do. And they are possibly not even aware of this, because I haven't thought about this for many, many years while I was working in that system. But over time, I actually stepped out of this whole thing and looked at it very analytically. And this is my conclusion of this. So that is, for example, if you have a system, it saves you a lot of time organizing your material. Bad methods. So this German-only approach can be cured by explaining everything that you need to understand crystal clearly in simple English. Because then you know, and then you practice in German, obviously. So you practice in German, but understanding happens in a language you are familiar with. It makes no sense to do this in a language you're not good with, because then you will have gaps. You will feel insecure, and frustration is bound to come. We need efficient tools and techniques. Textbook, for example, is not it's not really efficient. We have many, many online tools nowadays available that actually help you look at how correct you speak and how correct you write. It helps you with reading and listening. You don't have to have a cassette player anymore. Hopefully you have this on your mobile. So anything that seems a bit old-fashioned is very likely old-fashioned. You don't need to learn vocabulary lists. These are not efficient tools. You don't have to learn random vocabulary. It all needs to be a little bit in context. All these things can be considered. There's plenty of those, and you will see what works after working with them for a while. Check. So that structure is ideally fixed by having a step-by-step approach, and that step-by-step approach can be adapted to your learning speed. That's important as well, because otherwise you get bored. You don't want to take every step, maybe every other step. I don't recommend skipping anything when you, for example, work with our system, but you can still adjust the speed, and I help you with doing that. When you reach out to me and say, hey, I'm a bit bored, I need a little bit more pep, I'm happy to make things more difficult for you all the time. But initially, this helps you to just focus on the learning and not on the organization. If you can, avoid live tutors. Live tutors is the same as having to be at a fixed place at a fixed time. You don't need live tutors. You need an internet connection, of course. But what do you need a live tutor for? Things that can be explained, you can make a video of and watch them whenever you please and whenever you feel good. And if you have 10 to 20 other people in class, the tutor only has 1/10 or 1/30 of her attention for you, and you calculate that. So 1/10 of 3 hours is 18 minutes, but you pay for 3 hours. So why would you do that? And it's not even that. I think I calculated once, you have 10 minutes of attention from this tutor in a classroom. And for that, you pay the whole thing. You pay actually for listening to other people's bad German. And they might make mistakes and you might learn from those mistakes, but it's unlikely that you always learn something that is relevant to you. Yeah. And a tutor I recommend for two things. There might be other reasons to do so. One reason is to prepare for an oral exam. You don't need to, but for many people it's very, very helpful. And maybe for a job interview in German, but then they should also have certain knowledge about this process. And that's something I would definitely recommend, to invest some money in that. Yeah? Some of you might just want to have someone they feel accountable towards and hire one once a week for an hour to just have certain questions answered and just say, hey, I did this, I did that, some feedback. So that's a different thing. That's rather coaching than it is teaching. But for teaching German and doing it more than this one time a week, I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't invest the money. Here's another secret. There's only very few tutors that are actually worth the money and the time you invest. And here the same principle, do your due diligence all the time, meaning after a lesson ask, was it worth my money? Was it worth my time? And if not, what was the cause of the problem? And if you cannot fix it, then change the tutor. It's a very time-intensive progress unless you're really, really lucky and find a good one right away. Support means you get feedback, ideally instant, not next week or tomorrow when they correct your homework. Technology allows you to get instant feedback, so why would you do this the old-fashioned way and wait for your teacher to correct your homework? You would like to have an opportunity to find the answer to your questions even at 3 at night if you're a night owl. Yeah, I doubt that your tutor will pick up the phone or respond to your WhatsApp if you send them a message in the middle of the night. So, yeah. At Smarter German, I offer Q&As. They're free for everyone, whether you are working with us or not. Q&A allows students to connect to me, to a teacher, to a person, because online learning can be some very disconnected or feel disconnected at times. There's no humans involved. So the Q&A is something like this. So we meet, we say, hello, I relate to you. I personally deeply enjoy them because I also prefer to have contact to those that work with my course. So this is something you will enjoy. Yeah, and it's more of a motivation. It's not speaking practice. For that we have a different platform. So what to do for bad timing if you are pregnant or become a father, get ill? Well, I'm 50 years old looking back and talking to many, many people with many different ailments. I can only tell you it will be okay. And it's totally okay to take a break. Yeah, just take your time because there's nothing you can do. So that doesn't mean you don't have to learn German or there's no way that you can learn German. You can learn German, but just your expectations need to adjust. If you have a baby, there is absolutely no way you're going to sit there 3 hours undisturbed unless you're so extremely organized. But then you wouldn't have the problem to begin with. Yeah? And certain illnesses simply don't allow you to learn. Then you wish you could, but I think you could let go of that wish and just take care of what needs your immediate attention first. And once there's a little space for German again, you just come back. And with an online course like ours, that's easy to achieve because you can just continue where you left off. In a classroom, that's it. You have to review, repeat a level, for example, which costs additional money and is also frustrating. So what to do with a bad mindset? As I said, a reality check is something really, really useful. And if you need help with that, I'm always there. Yeah, and I try to be gentle because a reality check is something quite rough at times. But I give my best to be straightforward and gentle at the same time. So if your expectations are too high, I'm the first one to ask, what do you expect? Where does it come from? And then tell you what I've seen over the last years. And it helps. Yeah, it might hurt initially to let go of this idea, but it helps in the long run. A community is always helpful when you feel like something's not working as you want, and if you blame yourself maybe for it, just share your experience. Sharing is caring. Many people share your experience, and it is really, really motivating to get feedback on that, and also that everyone shares their journey, and it's just beautiful. And that is actually the part that works the best in our community. We have an online community for our customers, and these posts always get the most reactions. Beautiful.